friends, it's Bernadette. We are so excited for you to join us here today in this class for the Arc Tarot. I have been waiting with bated breath to show you this class in particular. You'll notice that I've had some guests on that I consider experts in their field. And today we have my goddess, sister witch, bestie. I didn't even have enough words to describe what this woman means to me, but Dayna Winters, here she is, and let me take a few minutes of your time and tell you all the amazing things that she is and she does. She's been an amazingly expert tarot reader for just about 30 years, right at 30 years, which means that you started when you were 2, because we're both in our mid-30s right now.
Exactly. We'll give it away, exactly.
Yep. Dayna is a Wiccan priestess, and you have 2 books on the market, right? Because you're this crazy, amazing dream interpreter. And what are the names of the books again? And they're with Schiffer Publishing, right?
Schiffer Publishing, yeah. And the first book is Wicca, What's the Real Deal? It goes over the misconceptions about Wicca. The second one is Sacred Objects, Sacred Space. It explores different objects used for ritual and their purpose and their history and symbolism. And then the last book, which is one of my favorites, is the Esoteric Dream Book, which teaches you how to analyze dreams and interpret the symbolism.
Right. So what is she not? She's a published author. She's an amazing editor. When you guys are looking through the book, please know that her wise eyes and just commitment and her pure love for me, because I about drove her into the ground editing the art. That's her great work that you see, and she's so very, very much appreciated. And yes, we know there are a couple of typos in there, but you know what? Find me a book or a tarot deck that doesn't have a typo. So today in this video, really we're going to go super in depth about tarot symbolism, how tarot relates to the animals in the deck, both with their symbolism and the animals that we chose for each card, and how you'll be able to, once you watch this video, when you look at the regular tarot card, the Rider-Waite system, which is what I based the arc on, when you take a look at a particular card, hopefully you'll be able to see the correlation between the animal, its pose, some of the colors, the look in its eye, the kind of the expression on its face, and again, its symbolism, and you'll see how it correlates to that particular tarot card. Now, some of you will never use the arc as a tarot deck, and that's cool, but there are some super hardcore, very learned, very experienced tarot readers that have been in touch with me that have purchased the arc, and then some of you are just beginners, and that's okay too. So for me, one of the reasons that I wanted to have Dayna on the class teaching you guys is I can read tarot, but it is not my claim to fame, and it is something I do when people request it. Now, when it comes to reading my own deck or working with an animal deck, that kind of thing, that's a very different story. But when we're talking about tarot, the Rider-Waite system, the ancient, tried and true classic tarot, I'm an intuitive tarot reader. If I put a spread in front of myself, then I'm not going to read that spread in the classic fashion. I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm going to go with my third eye, with my psychic eye, and put the story together. Well, Dayna, you do that also, if I'm not mistaken. You are an intuitive tarot reader. However, her knowledge and her knowledge of symbolism, from the Greek myths to help me out, Dayna, to the Egyptian myths, to the gods and goddesses, whether it's Celtic, whether it's Native American, whether it's Wiccan, whether it's pagan, it's just, her knowledge never ceases to amaze me. So I'm super thrilled that she agreed to do this with us today. I know that you're going to learn a lot, and so we're going to get started. And one of the things that I wanted to get into right away is I estimate that I personally looked at over 40,000 images of animals to go in this deck, whether in the tarot part or the oracle part or the 4 add-on decks. it had to be the right animal to fit the energy of the symbolism. And when I got to the tarot portion, Dayna worked tirelessly with me to choose many of the animals that you'll see signifying a particular card. And we want to talk about that for the minute. So we'll start at the beginning of the deck, which is the Fool card. And Dayna, you want to hold those up? So in the classic Rider-Waite deck, right? So that's the Magician. You've got the Magician and Rider-Waite. Grab the Fool.
Oh, you want to see the other one? Oh, sorry, Magician.
No, yeah.
Sorry. There we go.
So what you'll notice is, the Fool is all about new beginnings. It's about faith. It's about stepping off the precipice. Maybe even a little blind faith, but not so blind that you're going to fall down to the bottom. And, he's slung back. He's got his chest up to the sky, getting the radiance of the sun. He's got one foot out. And if you take a look at the Puffin card, that's what we...
Beast.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dayna.
Well, the Puffin has the puffed out chest.
Right.
And a lot of the physical symbolism of the animal matches the card so that it's easy to identify. So that if you're familiar with Rider-Waite, then looking at the animal, you can easily recognize some of the characteristics. But if you're new to it, it also helps you learn both systems at the same time. So if you're trying to learn Rider-Waite, you can learn through looking at the animals as well. And sometimes animals are more fun to work with. Like a lot of people, as classic as the Rider-Waite is, and as meaningful as the simple symbolism seems, the animal cards are friendlier, they're more colorful, and people love animals. So it's easier to relate to an animal and their characteristics. But if you look at the Puffin, his feet are like standing as he's getting ready to take a very awkward step or maybe even take flight. And the Fool himself is almost ready to take flight, because if he's going off that cliff, you don't know if he's going to be perhaps taking a step down or falling into an abyss, because he's looking up at the sky. He has no idea what's to come. The Puffin is a very childlike kind of animal because of its clownish-like face. And of course, you've got the Fool who's dressed like a court jester. So you have that kind of relation of performance or entertainment or being entertained, and that youthful childlike kind of innocence. And then, of course, you've even got just the environment here. You see the sun down here at the bottom. It kind of shines off the sand. You've got similar color in the environment so that you can relate the same symbolism, because all color has meaning in each card. So every card relates some way in myth and or the physical attributes of the animal, and it makes it more meaningful. And of course, it makes animals are great to relate to. I think I prefer animals over Rider-Waite, to be honest.
So, and the other thing is, isn't it? I'm tired today. So, Puffin is the sea clown, right? Isn't that the name?
Yes, he is the sea clown. What's nice about that is he's also.
Yeah, you went on this tarot today.
I did.
I was like, why are you even doing tarot? Why aren't you some professor at some museum doing, like Angels and Demons movie where the guy's the expert on all things symbolism? I was like, how the heck did you find out all that? Just briefly, what's that crazy connection that you found?
The Puffin is actually something about the world. I can't remember exactly what it was. I remember doing research on it. There was two things. One, the etymology of the Fool relates to the word puff. And it actually, you get Puffin as a connection, a puffed up chest. Some people who are arrogant are foolish or foolhardy. You get that puff or notion of breathing. And then there was actually a relation to the sea clown. And that has something to do with the macaw. And I can't remember what it was, but the macaw is the world card.
Right, which brought it all full circle.
Comes full circle and ends at the world card. So it's the beginning of the arcana, major arcana, and at the end, and that brings it all together. But for the life of me, I cannot remember the exact word connection. I would have to get back to you on it, to be honest with you. But there is a connection.
Listen, all I could do when you sent me that write-up was just look at my computer and go, I don't know how she puts this stuff together and finds this stuff, but holy cow, the book would have been like 14,000 pages if we'd have been able to put all of the research in it, So, because things are, you always hear people say, oh, we're all connected, everything's connected. And it's become such a kind of a joke in the New Age industry or about the New Age industry. Yeah. But it really is true. All these little threads, man, you can find your way back to anything. So moving on, why don't we go to the Magician card now, which is our Raven.
Okay. Oh, let me just add one point that did occur to me, because you were talking about connections. New information as it comes in also starts to connect. You should pay attention to that when you're looking for symbolism, because scientists recently found out that the puffin has bioluminescent beaks. And they think that allows them to find their way home again after being out to sea many, many years before they return. Now, the Fool, as you know, is a card that is about adventure, going on a quest, the hero's journey. You go out into the world and then you return home again with greater knowledge and understanding, so that it relates in that way. So as new information comes in, that also enhances and increases the meaning of the card and allows you to learn more from it or use it in the layout and discern different things from it.
Right,
but
sure.
I cut you off, so.
No, it's okay. But just so you guys know, we're not trying to overwhelm you or make this process harder, but some of you out there are true students of the tarot and true students of the symbolism. And we just are hopefully helping to give you deeper perspective, more perspective. And this is not something that Dayna or even I learned overnight. I mean, I've been reading for, 22, 23 years now. Dayna's been right at 30. And it's a passion of both of ours, seeking out the meanings of things and looking more deeply into the symbolism of everything, because everything means something to us. We talk about it for endless hours. So don't get overwhelmed. Just take things as you want to take them. And we're just offering, again, with these first 3 examples, we're just offering a little more expanded way that you can look at the Arc Tarot, the tarot portion. So let's move on to the Magician, one of my personal favorites.
Yes.
So take it away, Dayna. Tell you what, back those off just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So you go right ahead and you explain the symbolism.
Well, ravens are tricksters in myth. And the magician, you think on a very surface level, he performs tricks. So you've got the trickster kind of element here. There's also the raven being the spirit messenger, omens, being a very supernatural bird or associated with a lot of supernatural activity. And because it takes flight and it covers both the element of air and land, or air and earth, you've got the as above, so below position of the magician, with his hands, one pointing up in the air, one pointing to the earth. That axiom that whatever's written in the heavens, so shall it be on earth kind of principle. The black cloak of the raven, if you see, it's kind of shiny and almost like luminescent. It's about reflection. And if you look at the magician, he has a lemniscate over his head that kind of connects it to the universe, contemplation, reflection, divining things. You would be tapping into the realm of spirit. So with a spirit messenger, it's a perfect combination. Now, ravens are also, they bring a little bit of chaos into the world, and so can a trickster. So can a magician, depending on their intent or their magical purpose. So sometimes the chaos is for the greater good, and sometimes it's not, depending on what the outcome is. But both of these relate very closely together. And I mean, there's a lot of different trickster animals, but raven is just absolutely perfect for associating with the magician.
And if you guys knew what it took to find a raven in that position, where it was echoing that diagonal line of as above, so below for the magician, I'm surprised that I don't drink often. And it was epic. So it's not, you'll find that for the vast majority of the Arc Animal Tarot portion of the deck, the correlation of the symbolism, just visually, it goes on us. Dayna, did you freeze on us? Oh, you're back.
You froze for a second.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, but if you'll look for those, and that's okay, you could put the cards down now.
We were
Just look for the subtleties, and even ask the animal guides to make them very obvious to you and easy for you to see and interpret. Then it just adds layer upon layer upon layer to your readings. So let's move on. One of my personal favorites. I love the Empress card.
The Empress.
And so, it makes very good sense that we chose the cow, mother cow, for this, because she's the nurturer and she's abundance and she gives us everything we need. And you take it away, Dayna. You know the symbolism even better than I do. It's just,
when I see this card, I associate it with the goddess Demeter from Greece, which is an agricultural goddess. So, of course, cows are agricultural creatures that are a source of nourishment. Because clearly she's got, as Bernadette and I were discussing earlier, she has pomegranates all over her dress. You can't really put pomegranates around a cow's neck and expect to understand that symbolism. So she aptly chose a cow, because cows are even revered in places like India as a goddess figure. And they, of course, are about caring for the young, nurturing them, with, of course, giving them as a food source for their young. And the agricultural part you here see is reaping a harvest. They're both in a field. They both have flowers. And of course, I could look at these cards all day, but they're also the sign of Venus. There is also loving creatures that take care of their young. And if you look at the Empress, she's often depicted as pregnant, or things are in gestation. So not necessarily a cow is pregnant, but they do, they are bred, and of course they breed and take care of their young. So they definitely relate very well here. And of course you can see the field, even like some of the background symbolism is similar. So you have that outdoor nature kind of earthy goddess kind of atmosphere that makes the card very easy to relate to.
And the crown on the Empress's head, the meaning of that is, because that's one of the reasons I wanted to make sure we had a horned cow.
Yeah, the diadem on our head here is, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stars. So that would relate to a master number, of course, or the number 3, if you break it down numerology wise. And the number 3 is a symbol for the divine. So a divine connection with the gods, or like the goddess of the starry skies. You can relate that to more than one goddess figure, but I just happen to relate it to Demeter a lot because it's that mother figure. And of course, it gives you that opportunity to look at the myth and say, well, okay, if it's, looking at this card, that means there may be some abundance or some growth and things are going to grow beautifully. Or, if the energy is negative, depending on the other cards, that, you might end up with some barrenness, depending on if she's separated from her daughter, things like that.
The heart symbol in the Empress card, that means what?
The heart symbol, that's a symbol of Venus. So you can relate to the goddess Venus, love, development, the sharing of love, the giving of love.
And if you, not to cut you off, but if you all notice on the cow's third eye, there's a white heart. And we did that deliberately. Yeah, we did that deliberately because when you do read, especially when you're reading for other people, it really is an act of love. It is an act of giving, receiving and giving. And so that's, Heidi futzed with that for a long time to make it not just kind of a blob, but, not obvious, but just a little more reminiscent of a heart shape. So thanks, Dayna. You could put this down now, but that just gives you guys a little bit of an overview of what the arc animals in the tarot portion have to do with the Rider-Waite tarot deck and vice versa. So maybe, Dayna, just take a minute or two and give folks some tips on how they can maybe a little more easily or a little more, everybody wants things so fast these days, and you and I know that great knowledge does not necessarily come that quickly. But I see in the, I'm in a lot of tarot forums. I don't post, I'm the biggest lurker on the planet, but I see this question over and over and over and over again about how can you learn the symbolism of the Rider-Waite deck or any deck? And, people have got all kind of memorization tips, and they're like, journal it, get an extra deck, paste it in there, write down what your thoughts are on it, that kind of thing. And all of those work for different people, lots of different, ideas for different people. What did you find worked best for you when you were first starting out?
Well, of course, I started out using books, and I don't mind using reference books, and don't be ashamed of using reference books. You can't go professional using reference books, but certainly, trying to learn and master the cards, you get an idea of what other people see as far as symbols are concerned. Now, I've actually seen someone who taught a class in tarot where you would take the card and actually draw it. You don't have to be a master artist, but looking at it from an artist eye, very close eye, even with a magnifying glass, and then trying to draw that, it helps you commit it to memory, but it also helps you look at it very closely for all the details. And don't think you're going to get all the details ever, because I've been doing this for 30 years, and there's sometimes I'm like, oh, I never even really looked at it that way before, because it'll pop into my mind that, oh, wow, that actually symbolizes this in real life. Like that even happened to me this morning when I was doing a reading where the swords looked like a fence. And I thought, oh, wow. And then I looked at the numerology and I saw the fence being torn down because the numbers were being lessened. So it's not something that you'll master overnight. It's not even something you'll master in this lifetime, because it is a language. And just like language, you learn and you continue to learn. And that is the key, continuing to learn. To study myth, symbols, whether it's marketing symbols, whether it's esoteric symbols, mythology. You want to engross yourself in those kind of things, envelop yourself in those kinds of things. And it's a lifelong kind of process, because the more you learn, the more tools you have in your arsenal for interpretation. And the broader, you can look at it from different perspectives. It's no different than psychology, taking different types of perspectives and looking at them from different angles. You're going to look at the cards from different angles. The key, a lot of people are very hard on themselves because they want to be able to read tarot like yesterday. It's just not a system that you can read like yesterday unless you're using the intuitive kind of interpretation, which I kind of blend both. I'll read the cards and then I'll go with what I sense as well. You just look at a card and see how it relates to you. And it's probably better for you to start out intuitive before you let everybody shape and shade what you're thinking, and add what potential meaning could go to that. Like you start out intuitively, look at the card, say, oh, this looks like this to me, and this is a symbol that means something to me. And then look at someone else's meaning and say, hey, I didn't look at it that way before, and add that to your arsenal of understanding. That way you're not closing yourself off by saying, oh, I must have been wrong. There is no wrong symbolism. It's more about what resonates with you as the reader. And sometimes being a reader, one of the most challenging things is having someone come in who knows a little bit about the tarot, and they're very fixed about their definitions, and then they expect your definitions to be the same. And it's not. Every reader has a different system of reading the tarot. Yeah. So diversity, learning, artistically looking at the cards, and just meditation on cards. Yes, that works. But really, it's more if you're interactive, you're using that movement of drawing, it ingrains it in your system.
Yeah. And, I really encourage folks to read as many different interpretations as they can. So, or meaning, the tarot card meaning. So, for instance, a lot of people go to Biddy Tarot because she shows up number one on the internet. She was the first person to get out there with search engine optimization, all that kind of thing. And her descriptions are very solid. I wouldn't say that they're very in-depth, but they're very solid. Then if you go to my site, Building Beautiful Souls, it's told more in allegory, story form, relating it to the world today. Yeah. A lot of people love that. And then some people are like, that's just not traditional. And I'm like, okay. But there are so many amazing books and amazing websites out there that, read as many as you will make time for, because you'll find something that resonates with you, hopefully with each one. And then over time, they kind of blend. And like you said, Dayna, it's creating your own language. And the other thing that I want to say, we could be moms and be like, study, 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 kids. But you're going to take in information and seek information as you feel comfortable, as you want to, and really based on the effort that you want to put in. Just remember, whatever effort you put in is exactly what you'll get out. Here's why. Yeah, here's why. Because I teach an intuitive tarot class, but I don't teach a tarot class. I just don't feel like I'm qualified for that. But in my intuitive tarot class, I teach people, and Dayna, you've sat in on a class or two of mine, and remember the exercise that we've done where everybody brings a different deck. Yes. And then just pull a random card, and then another person reads from that card. Or if you're in a class, that's online. If you're in a classroom environment, you everybody brings a deck and then we trade decks, and you pull a card from a deck you've never ever seen before, and you use it as a springboard for launching off into a reading. And it's just truly astounding. I was at, what can happen from that, even with people who've never, ever taken a tarot class before, but maybe have taken 1 or 2 psychic development classes. I was in Albuquerque. My really dear friend Cheryl Ryder, shaman extraordinaire, tarot reader. She's great. She's a great teacher. I just can't say enough good things. And she was kind enough to invite me to, well, it was a celebration. What's the word I'm looking for? A shamanic event. Dayna, what's the word I'm looking for?
No, I'm not sure. Shamanic, I'm not sure.
Ceremony.
You're referencing.
The first thing to go was your memory, but a shamanic ceremony. So in the middle of the day, when we were waiting for people to come for the evening, the fire ceremony and that kind of thing, everybody there was kind of a beginner, and I was like, well, let's play this game. And Cheryl's got about 1.5 billion tarot decks, and everybody brought their own tarot deck. And a really good friend of mine was with me, and this gal drew this card, and I think it was the Knight of Wands, or whichever knight it is that you can, in her deck, this knight, you could see his thumb on the wand, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody was telling their interpretation of what they saw in that card as it pertained to the person who drew it, right? There were some crazy dead on the money things. So my friend kept looking at that card and she goes, I know this is going to sound completely nuts. She said, I can't stop looking at that guy's thumb. And she said, my thumbs are starting to ache. And the gal that pulled the card, her jaw hit the table. She went, oh my God, 6 months ago, I had surgery on my thumbs for blah, blah, blah. And today they're hurting. So then later on, about, I don't know, an hour, this fellow came in. He was there for the fire ceremony. And he comes in and he introduced himself, whatever. And I turned around at him and I said, so how you doing today, sport? And he goes, and we just busted laughing. And then there were a couple of other thumb references. And at the end of the night, like 10:30 or so, this gal had called her son to come pick him up. And I was in the kitchen putting away food or whatever. And all of a sudden I hear this giant burst of laughter. And everybody's like, Bernadette, turn around. And I turn around and this kid's like 6'3", he's just this big guy. And he's got this anime t-shirt on. And the character on the anime t-shirt was doing this. So if we'd had time, maybe what we could have found was, what was the thumb thread that each of these people that got involved in the thumb shenanigans, what did they need from that Knight of Wands card that, we were so focused on and it wasn't like an in-depth class it was for real, but it just wasn't an in-depth. What message might they have gotten that they might have needed from that card? And it all started off with my friend going, I just can't help it. I've got to talk about this knight's thumb. And boom, 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 we've got this whole series of events, completely unrelated people who've never met each other before, had no knowledge of the thumb thing going on. So when you have coincidences like that happen, follow them, go with them. There are no coincidences. And that is Spirit's way of trying to get your attention, because I don't necessarily like to use the word rewarding, but as I spoke of in the class, the psychic development class for the ARC and the mediumship development class for the ARC, the relationship that you create with Spirit is exactly the kind of reading that you're going to get, because let's face it, who is orchestrating the pulling of these cards? Who's orchestrating, or what is orchestrating the order that they come in? Well, that's a whole metaphysical, quantum physical rabbit hole we could go down. And Dan, I think you and I have talked about this a couple times, that once you get to know your deck and your deck knows you, somebody asks you a question, and even though you can't see the face of the cards, you're to stop at a card. Well, you might be picking up that particular card through psychometry because you have that kind of relationship with your deck. And or it might be that spirit is nudging you to pull this card, don't pull this card, move on from this card, that kind of thing. But working intuitively and being willing to have an open mind, being willing to be courageous and say what you're getting, even when it's the kookiest thing ever.
Yes, for sure.
To trust you more and give you, I don't know, more information, deeper information, information that goes beyond the, yes, I see you're going to get that promotion. Maybe you can tell them more about that promotion. When I take a look at this card, I feel like the decision maker is going to be a blonde-haired woman. It looks to me like her favorite color is black, or maybe she's got short blonde hair, or just other things that you can glean from the symbolism on the card if you'll open yourself up intuitively. So, Dayna, are there, if I turned my camera around, well, first of all, there's boxes and boxes of the Ark, but my house is a big book. It's just nothing but shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of books. And so are there any symbolism books or books on the Greek gods and goddesses or Egyptian gods and goddesses, or just anything that really helped you on your tarot journey?
Any of the myths from like the Odyssey, the Iliad, Isis, the goddess of 10,000 names. That's a good one for Egyptian myth. I used to read encyclopedias when I was a kid. I know that sounds so boring. Excuse me, I really did. I used to read encyclopedias. I used to read the dictionary. I dream about reading the dictionary. It's so funny. My husband tried to wake me up one morning, and his name is Mark, and I went to say, I love you, Mark, and I said, I love you, Aardvark, and he has never lived it down since. It was like I was in letter A, and it rhymes. If I can rhyme Aardvark with Mark, that's perfect, because I'm coming out of a dream. So I'm constantly reading all the time, so I end up dreaming about reading. So a lot of the stuff, I know this sounds maybe some boring to some people, but the stuff you would read in college, classics, classic literature, Paradise Lost, John Milton, anything that relates even to the Bible, biblical information, because there's a lot of Bible symbolism in the Rider-Waite Tarot. It's anything that has really rich symbolism. It really, to narrow it down to just one book, I couldn't do it. Shakespeare, you could probably relate Shakespeare Garden to all the flowers in the deck. So anything that you see a lot of symbolism in, certainly I would recommend reading it. Of course, I recommend reading everything. So you could cereal box and find something fascinating. It's just ridiculous sometimes how accurate and true to life the cards can be. And speaking of thumbs, this is going to blow your mind. You see this shirt?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever worn a shirt with thumb holes. I've never had a shirt or sweater with thumb holes. Keeps your hands warm.
I've never seen it
with thumb holes. Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, that means they're going to be okay. Or what is it they weren't grasping? That's what I was thinking. But yeah, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm wearing a shirt with thumb holes. Like emphasis on my thumbs.
Well, listen, our connection is just the stuff legends are made of. It's just nuts. But, I'm trying to think of anything else. Listen, you and I could be here for a couple days just going through each of the cards, talking about the symbolism, talking about how to look deeper. Is there any final, just, I guess, advice that you can give to, let's say, a beginner?
As far as
maybe getting more confident, more comfortable.
Well, they don't have to start with a Rider-Waite deck to learn. It's classic, so it's a good idea to learn it at some point. It's like learning English before you learn Spanish kind of thing. But you can learn from anything, and not to box yourself in. But censorship is the big thing. You're right. Like there have been so many times where I have been right on the edge of saying something and I'm like, no, maybe I shouldn't. And truth was I should have said it. And then there's no going back and saying, oh yeah, I was thinking that, because nobody's going to believe you when you say it. So I really encourage people to start trusting their intuition, which is easier said than done. Working with trusting the self is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the other thing is, as you get more confident, don't take no for an answer. You can come to the place. Now, I have some buddies that are readers that, if a client gets a little squirrely in their chair, they'll go a different direction. They won't. Their fear of being wrong supersedes their want to do a great job for their client. And that's no knock on them. That's where they are. And then I have buddies that are on the other side of the fence that when I watch them read, they are so invested in, oh my gosh. A good friend of mine and I were in Sedona, and we went to this reader who made a declarative statement about this gal and a situation in her family life. And everything inside of me froze, because it is the most painful, tragic, only a saint, only somebody who is ascending to the 50th dimension right after this life, who truly is an angel on earth. Nobody signs up for this kind of sacred contract, but she and her husband did. And the outcome, without going into the story and divulging confidences, but the outcome of their walk through the 7 levels of hell is that their experience and their being willing to be some of the bravest people I've ever seen changed a law in the state of Florida, which went on to change the law across the entire country, which went on to save untold thousands and thousands and thousands of children in foster care. So this gal, the reader, made a declarative statement, and everything in my body froze. I went, she couldn't be wronger. No. And when my friend was like, well, that doesn't really resonate with me, that whatever, this woman got angry. She was like, oh yes, this is right. And then she just built on the story and built on the story until finally my friend was like, we are done here. And we just walked out, because this woman, she was not going to be told she was wrong. And sometimes you're just wrong. I got a pretty good reputation for being accurate. But 20-something years, I've been wrong. Hell yes, I've been wrong. I'll be wrong tomorrow. I'll be wrong 10 years from now. Sometimes you just don't hear things clearly. Who knows why you get things, befuzzled. But what you do have to do, well, you don't have to, but I highly recommend it, is stick to your guns. John Edward I learned this from John Edward. He's the best at this. People will be like, nope, and he'll be like, yup, and they'll be like, nope, and he'll be like, oh yeah, and then they'll eventually get to it. And it takes a little bit to get to that, because you got to know yourself. Are you telling a client when they say no, are you telling them yes because, by God, you're going to be right come hell or high water, or because you've got that feeling in the pit of your stomach and that knowing in your heart and that tingling, or however it comes to you in your third eye, your crown chakra, your root, wherever, that you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not coming through in the language they need to hear it. Spirit, send me a different way to describe it. Having the courage to just sit there in the moment and wait for the story to unfold in your psychic eye. I did a reading for a gal, a few months back. And she before I could say, please don't tell me anything, she just blurted out, my son died and I want to hear from him. La, 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 don't tell me anything else. So I said to her, okay, I need to be sure that I'm in the right energy. I feel like a mechanical malfunction had something to do with his passing. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. And the more she said no, the more this kid appeared in front of me, this giant like delivery or box truck he was in or whatever. Well, she was so focused on needing to hear that for her to believe it was him talking through me or anybody, that he was hit by a car. Okay, and that's true, he was. But what led up to that was he was in his company delivery van that the engine just shut down. They had to push it off into the median. That's the mechanical malfunction. Or the kid would have never been on I-95 in Miami and tried to cross I-95 in rush hour traffic and just got mowed over like a pinball.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I just had to wait for the story to unfold. And I find that Spirit sometimes will send you everything in black and white and Technicolor, and just like Bill Engvall, here's your sign. It's just as blatant as it can be. And sometimes it's more nuanced than that. I believe that on those days, maybe my connection is not quite as strong. Maybe from the other side, the Spirit, maybe the connection there is not quite as strong. Or more often than not, I've seen that there's something about the buildup of the story, the hearing the story told in a different way, or something that the client really, really needed. And so, it's kind of like Goldilocks porridge. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is it just right? Are you a big fraidy cat and that's impeding your readings? Are you an egomaniac and just can't possibly be wrong? Or are you a person who can truly set aside your shame or need to be perfect or need to be right to be able to do a better service for your client and risk being wrong, but have enough courage to stick to your guns when you know that you know that you know? And y'all, let me tell you something. There are going to come days when you know that you know that you know, and you're still wrong. It happens. And then, like Dayna said, there are days when you're like, ooh, you're right. And you just don't bring yourself to spit it out. And then you kick yourself in the butt for weeks to come. And you got to let all of that go, because it is, it's human nature. We all want to be as much of a hollow bone as possible, but, we're human and we're just doing the best that we can. So, Dayna, you're my tarot hero. She's forgotten more about tarot and symbolism than I'll ever learn in this lifetime. And you're always available for readings at luckyfrogtarot.com, right?
Yeah.
Or you can find her on Facebook at Dayna Winters. You can find her on Facebook at Lucky Frog. It's just Lucky Frog,
yeah.
Right? You can poke around my friends list and find her. I thank you so very much for all the hard work that you did with me on the arc and everything else that you helped me with in every way. And I really thank you for taking part in this class. And is there any final thing that anybody should know that may have just occurred to you that we haven't gone over yet?
Well, other than the Arc is an amazing deck and everyone should own one. I think it's better than the Rider-Waite deck. I think you should own that deck, certainly, because it's among my favorites. And I'm biased, of course, but I mean, it really is a deck that's worth having. For parents out there, just, my grandson loves the cards. And I use them as flashcards. He doesn't get to touch them because I don't want him to ruin them because he's only one. But he loves the cards and he makes little animal sounds. And I think they're great for teaching kids about animals. And he was like, oh, ooh, the sounds he made were so hysterical. I was laughing the whole time. And I can use them through FaceTime on the phone when I'm talking to him. So it was great. And he runs around the house with the phone, and I'm showing him the cards, and you're oohing and ahhing throughout the house, and making little duck sounds when the duck comes up. It's great. I think they're great for educational tools.
Yeah, thanks. I've had several parents write in and say that they had, well, a number of them have written in and go, I got to buy another deck. My kid keeps grabbing the deck. Or that they bought the deck for their child who needed to learn about animals or wanted to learn about animals, and their children just love it. And I was like, I never thought of that. I just love it. And if we can contribute to more generations of people who love animals and will do good things for animals, then our work here is done.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. All right, Dayna. Well, thank you so much. I will talk to you tomorrow, as always.
Okay.
So, just appreciate you so much. And for all of you guys out there that supported the art and love it and are working with it, I thank you. A million thank yous. All right, you guys, take care and stay wild.
Bye.